Hi, everybody. My name is Abbey Martichenko. And just to give you a little background about myself, I'm a sophomore at USC. I'm majoring in journalism. And this past summer, I was also part of the SDG Leadership Academy. And to be completely honest with you, at the start of the program, I didn't really know what it meant to be a part of the SDG Leadership Academy, but now that I do, I can't wait to share a little bit about my experience and tell you what you can expect if you also find yourself as part of this program. Okay, so a little bit about my project. So the project I was accepted to work on is the Community Index and Storytelling Project. Plain and simple, our team's objective was centered around building a greater understanding of what the Sustainable Development Goals are and how these goals are related to LA. So while our objective was to build visibility of the SDGs in LA, we also wanted to recognize and celebrate organizations that are actively embracing the SDGs and that are building a more equitable future right here in LA, even if the organizations don't know of these goals or even if they don't use any of the SDG language. So phase one of the project focused on expanding an already existing activities index, which is on the Mayor's Office of Los Angeles website. This is a living database of different organizations in Los Angeles, all of which are actively advancing the SDGs. So we wanted to identify these leading organizations, add them to the index so that the public can have a greater understanding of what the SDGs are and which organizations in our city are working toward them. In order to populate this index activity with more organizations, the question that we had to consider is how do we identify which organizations are advancing the SDGs in LA? And to answer this, we created a standardized index methodology, which is just a really fancy name for a document that tells us what we should look for when we are indexing organizations and which SDGs these organizations correlate to. As phase two, we created visibility pieces for organizations that are major players in advancing the SDG work. Each member of our team was tasked with making contact with an organization that correlated to a specific goal. We developed a set of interview questions based on the work of each organization. And finally, we created our respective visibility pieces. We worked hard to ensure that the organizations and projects that we selected were representative of diverse communities, as the SDGs, of course, are centered around equity. Awesome. So to talk a little bit about the outcomes of our project, we added 102 new organizations into our activities index, and I'm going to go show you guys a screen recording of the index in a moment. And we ended up with 9 visibility pieces. Obviously, with COVID, there are a lot of restrictions. Most of us weren't in LA. We were operating virtually. We couldn't conduct in-person interviews. And a lot of the organizations were grappling with their own challenges related to COVID and didn't have time to be interviewed. And for this reason, we ended up with 9, although in my opinion, this gave us the time to really develop our pieces and highlight the incredible work that these organizations do. So as you can see, watching the video, you can filter through projects and organizations that exist across a variety of sectors, whether that's government, private sector, nonprofits, or philanthropy. And you can learn about the work that they're doing and how this correlates to SDG goals. And you can also go visit their website and get connected to them. Additionally, you can actually, organizations or projects can come onto this website and log themselves so that they exist in this database. And so it's always active and always growing. To talk a little bit about the blog posts or the visibility posts, I'm going to plug my piece really quickly. This is the piece that I worked on. So I was highlighting SDG 8, which focuses on economic growth and decent work for all. I actually ended up interviewing and speaking with a representative at Homeboy Industries. They're an incredible major player that works on empowering and healing and providing opportunities to those in underserved and vulnerable communities, specifically former gang members and the formerly incarcerated. So this is the first 2 pages of the piece that I wrote. It was a great way for me to own my interviewing skills, develop my narrative storytelling, and also combining photos and graphics. So I really, really enjoyed working on this piece from start to finish. Here is a little graph showing all the the 9 profiled organizations that we highlighted, as well as the correlating SDG. You can see that we had a range of organizations that were all advancing different goals. And I think that it really allowed us to have a chance to profile organizations that as individuals we had a passion for. So that was a really cool part of working on this team. And lastly, just to talk a little bit about the personal and professional development that I experienced. I think last summer for a lot of us was a difficult and isolating time, and it definitely still feels overwhelming to think about our future or to find opportunities that are a good fit for us. But it was a really incredible virtual way to still connect with my own personal and professional passions. And so, firstly, I learned a ton about team collaboration. My team had to work together to populate our activities index, to create presentations, communicate in group meetings. I think it's an awesome way to connect with other intelligent and driven people, and also own your interpersonal and listening skills, which are really important qualities in your career. Um, I also had a chance to expand on my research and writing skills. But more importantly, through my time at the Academy, I learned so much about Los Angeles and the organizations doing critical work in my own community. As college students, it's so important that we understand the ecosystems that we're settling into. And I really enjoyed researching and writing about and talking with inspiring people who are doing important work in the community that I can now call home. Lastly, it was a great way for me to make contact with people that are working with organizations that in the future I would love to be connected with. I was personally really happy to profile an organization that works on narrowing disparities in the criminal justice system, and I hope to get involved with them in the future. So, as the other SDG Leadership Academy participants said, you learn so much about the public sector, and it gives you a really practical and realistic look into a career that you may want to pursue in the future. So I'm very thankful for my time at the Academy, for all the people I met, all the people I learned from, and wherever this will lead me in the future. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them at any point. So thank you all for listening.